I'm gonna go into Schopenhauer's his book or his writing, The Fourfold Root of the Principle of Sufficient Reason. In the sidebar below, there's a video that I made just before this one, actually, about what the principle of sufficient reason is, and you can go there and actually figure out what that actually is. But there's 4 forms of this principle. The principle of sufficient reason of becoming. There's a form of becoming where things or objects that come to be. There's a if one or several states of objects come to be or it appears, there's another state of objects that preceded that, which caused that, which, you know, that follows. So if we have some objects or beings or some things that appear, then there's some there's a state of objects which there's a state of objects which a state of affairs which involves some things that appear, objects that appear, so one or several objects that appear. Then there's a preceding state of objects which creates a causal chain from that state of objects to this current one. And there's not going to be a state of objects that appear without there being a preceding state of objects. So if one or several objects within a state of objects appear, then there's a preceding one, where the two and most others are causally linked. The second one is the principle of sufficient reason of knowing. If you have a judgment that expresses knowledge, it must have sufficient grounds for that knowledge. Now, I've talked about a lot of after 1960s epistemology. I've talked about the Getty problem, foundationalism, and all, and I'm going to continue a lot more with that. But knowledge is something that is very hard to come by, and if you're going to claim that if you have a judgment that has knowledge, then it definitely came from somewhere. You have to have grounds for why why the judgment X expresses knowledge. So you really can't have judgment X which expresses knowledge without there being grounds and warrant and backing for that knowledge being there within that judgment. So basically, what we have here in these first two that I'm talking about, there's causal links from one entity to another, and this is going to continue because we have the principle of sufficient reason of being, where states of being in space and time, if you have things that are in states of being which are certain objects within certain spatial temporal locations, there's a reason for why that thing exists in that location. There's a reason why there's being there. There's just like the other 3 forms, there's a preceding state, or a preceding state of being, which has a causal link to this current one. And there's the principle of sufficient reason of acting, which means about like human decisions. If a human makes a decision, then there's an object which has an effect on that human, which creates a motive for that act. So the cow over there just farted. See that cow? Oh my gosh. If I can come back here. That cow over there just farted. Where's the money? Alright, whatever. I'm mature. Facepalm. Oh wow, this video kind of came into a train wreck, didn't it? Anyway. So here we have, in this principle of sufficient reason of acting, we have, just like we have a human act or human decision, which is inspired, which by a state of objects, which creates a motive for that decision. So in any state of becoming, knowing, being, or acting, you have a causal chain of states. You have a spatiotemporal timeline, or spaceline and timeline of states in either becoming or knowing or being, where each of these states are causally linked, and there's no really way out of that. So I would have to say that this is definitely true. So hopefully, now that I've kind of discussed this whole thing in 2 videos, the principle of sufficient reason, hopefully now I can kind of go into more works now. So thank you.